So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to So we are back with a brand new movie Onward if Naruto became overhype after divorce of Felicia, but before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. 3 years ago, Uzumaki Naruto would have laughed off the idea of becoming a civilian. At his core, Naruto was a fighter. A trait passed down to him by his parents, no doubt. The life of a non-combatant felt too tame for his tastes. Conflict followed in his shadow. Naruto knew that better than anyone. Or at least, that's what he thought. Time had a way of proving a person wrong. When thrust into another schooling system of all things, Naruto felt his world ending. Like the old academy, most of what high school taught him bored Naruto to tears. Going from a worldwide to geometry would do that to a guy. However, Naruto did manage to find something that interested him. That was world history. The idea of various cultures and beliefs coming into their own in a single place fascinated the shinobi. Naturally, the whiskered ninja transplant gravitated toward Japan. It felt like a more in-depth reflection of the history Naruto knew from back home. He also took a secondary interest in India's culture along the way. The more he discovered, the more Naruto questioned how these detailed stories came to be. Sure, he didn't have any proof, but he had an idea. Gods, goddesses, and maybe something even greater. Though seemingly unbelievable, it made the most sense. With how I ended up here, it's not so unbelievable that gods and goddesses spent time on Earth at some point. I mean, look at Thor and Loki. If two Asgardians are of flesh and blood, why can't others? If what Naruto thought was true, then the possibilities were literally endless. But did Naruto want to meet these beings if they really did exist? Past experience with those considered divine hadn't left a positive experience on the whiskered teenager. Naruto shook his head. He was getting ahead of himself. Happy to laugh at himself and his overactive imagination, Naruto stopped in the middle of the path and looked at the clouds. What am I doing? What am I thinking about? This isn't the time for what-ifs. Those kinds of thoughts can wait until after I enjoy a nice, hot bowl of ramen. A different dimension didn't lessen Uzumaki Naruto's love for the broth-filled noodle dish. Naruto continued down the bend in the path, taking it to a more isolated section of the park trail. That's where the blue-eyed blonde stumbled upon a confrontation that instantly put a frown on his face. A pair of guys stopped a young woman from continuing down the path. She looks kind of familiar. Really familiar, actually. Look, I told you and your buddy that I'm not interested. Take the hint and buzz off. She was tired of repeating herself to these dunces. They hadn't tried anything funny yet, but she was a few seconds away from kicking one of them in the balls. It'd make her feel better and prove a point. Felicia Hardy wasn't some wallflower to be pushed around. The reiterated denials thrown at him caused the older man to snort and fold his arms. I don't see what the problem is. You come to our party, show off a little, and get free drinks. It's a win for everyone. Felicia rolled her eyes. This persistence thing was getting old. First of all, I'm not 21 yet. And second, you're what, 25? Sorry, but that's a little too old for me. So why don't you take your offer and find someone else? Hey, you don't have to be a frigid bitch about it. We're trying to do you a favor. The frustration on the second man's face was becoming rapidly apparent. There was also the way his finger tapped irritably against his bicep. Felicia's equally biting response was shelved. Because this was when Naruto cleared his throat. Without uttering a word, Naruto redirected the attention onto him. However, now it was Felicia's turn to interrupt Naruto. Naruto. The timely appearance of a high school acquaintance gave Felicia an idea. She brushed past the two dunces and took a surprised Naruto by the arm. The fog that kept Naruto from remembering Miss Hardy's name vanished when he saw her face. Putting that confusion into the inflection of his voice, Naruto replied, Felicia? While they were from the same class of graduates, Naruto never got to know Felicia Hardy. They existed on opposite ends of the social spectrum. She was the popular one, while he was the quiet one who kept to himself. Naruto only knew who she was because the two of them had 3 classes together in their senior year. He didn't have bad things to say about Felicia, but nothing overly complimentary either. That's why he was as confused as anyone by the sudden contact. Felicia pouted at the genuinely confused man on her arm. She placed more pressure on his arm when she squeezed it tightly to her chest. What took you so long? I started to think you were going to stand me up. Naruto didn't get the chance to call Felicia out on her lie. Not with one of her 2 suitors forcing his way back into the conversation. The anointed dunce broke free of his surprised stupor, and he couldn't keep his envy to himself. Hey, loser, we have some business with this one. Why don't you take a hike or something? I agree. Come on, Naruto. We're late for our lunch reservations. Felicia played up their relationship further by leaning into Naruto's body. This earned the confused blonde a glare from the other blockhead. Clearly, he was jealous too. Seriously, This is your boyfriend? Dude looks like a flake. That particular piece of unsolicited judgment destroyed whatever patience Naruto might have had. With one eyebrow twitching dangerously, Naruto repeated the word in his brain. Flake, huh? He'd show them a flake. It was time to break out an old ninja trick on these fools. Killing intent would have done the job, but Naruto didn't want to stop their hearts, so he settled for the next best thing. He dropped the physical weight of his chakra on the fools. Did you say something? It was equivalent to having an ocean's worth of water dropped on top of them, and it showed. Naruto took a vindictive pleasure in seeing both men sweat like pigs as they backed away from him instinctively. And nah, let's go, Bryce. His prevailing satisfaction turned into a chuckle. Naruto's laughter trailed the two men as they scampered away fearfully. The only reason he stopped laughing was Felicia poking him in the chest. You say something? The lack of attention on her put a pout on Felicia's lips. She cocked her hip to the side, put a hand on that hip, and repeated herself for Naruto's benefit. I said thank you for the help. They were getting on my nerves. Curious like a cat, the young hardy wanted to say more. She questioned how Naruto made her unwanted tagalongs panic like he did but kept those inquiries to herself for now. Besides, she got to savor how they scurried off like ants. Serves them right. Oh, don't worry about it. Then again, you didn't leave me with much choice, did you? It was here Naruto dropped a playfully pointed look on his fellow blonde. There wasn't any remorse in Felicia. What she gave Naruto his troubles was a cheeky smile. That ended up becoming Felicia sticking her tongue out at Naruto. Sometimes a girl has to do what a girl's gotta do. Naruto conceded to Felicia's point. If people were harassing him, he'd do whatever it took to shake them. Shrugging off the harmless way she manipulated him, Naruto left Felicia with a friendly smile. At least I could help. Have a good day, yeah? He made it all of 3 steps before Felicia barred his path by moving in front of him. Ironic. Hold on a second. Where do you think you're going? Blinking at the young woman, he pointed past her shoulder and down the path. I planned on going that way. So if you don't mind. Actually, I do mind. Whether you wanted to or not, the fact is you helped me out. That means I owe you one, and Felicia Hardy doesn't do debts. So as my way of paying you back, we're going out for lunch. Understood? Her serious tone hinted Naruto had little choice in this matter as well. However, Naruto wouldn't be him without some stubbornness. Raising his eyebrow also helped Naruto match the expression on Felicia's face. His response came with the start of a smirk. What if I already have plans? His contrarian response earned him another 3 jabs to the chest from the stunning woman. Either Felicia knew him better than he thought, or she had skills at seeing through bullshit. You're telling me you'd turn down a date with Felicia Hardy? Makes a girl wonder. Unlike most in similar circumstances, the blonde Uzumaki laughed off the poorly veiled questioning of his sexual preferences. A younger him would have definitely exploded from such a comment. Funny, I don't remember anyone saying anything about a date. I could have sworn I heard the word lunch. Felicia's blue eyes twinkled, showing how much she appreciated the back and forth banter between her and Naruto. Felicia liked to think of herself as a free spirit. Her interests lay in men who weren't trying too hard to look cool. Not to mention the trick Naruto used to scare off those 2 idiots. Interesting indeed. It was likely a slip of the tongue. I definitely meant a date, and as a gentleman, you shouldn't actively work against my expectations. The Cheshire grin indicated how serious she was taking this whole thing, but neither teen cared all that much. Fine. Naruto's inevitable relenting got a big smile from Felicia, but I want it written down that I'm only doing this because I have an empty stomach, you got that? Your extraordinary circumstances have been noted, now get that rear in gear. I'm feeling peckish. Bumping Naruto with her hip, Felicia took the lead, leaving Naruto to shake his head in good humor. The walk that followed was best described as comfortable. There wasn't a word spoken between Naruto and Felicia because they didn't feel the need to talk. It was a peaceful walk with good company, and that's all it had to be. Eventually, the pair found a nice, little burger place that Felicia was more than happy to recommend. The conversation picked up once again when the two were seated in their booth. Fresh off a sip of her lemonade, Felicia started things off. Now that you're done with school, what's next? She asked and answered this question 100 times, but she was interested in hearing Naruto's answer. You'll be the first to know once I have an answer. I suppose I spent too much time in the present to think about my future. What Felicia and the others didn't know was the reasoning behind that. Try coming to an entirely different dimension at 16. See how worried you were about life after high school. It took more than 3 years to adapt, even for a shinobi. Putting her chin on the top of her palm, Felicia offered one route forward. It was the same thing one of the school's academic counselors advised Naruto to do. Have you thought about going to a college? I'm going to the university upstate. Yeah, I thought about it, but I don't know what I'd study. Maybe I'll do some traveling first. I have more than enough money saved away, luckily. More like Naruto had a casino's worth of cash after using a henge to clean out a nearby gambling establishment. International heartbreaker, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto chose not to correct her Western way of pronouncing his name. Instead, he turned the question game back on Felicia. Okay, how about you? Is there anything you regret not doing now that we're out of high school? Ooh, that's a good one. Let me think. Felicia's eyes went up while her finely kept fingernails tapped at the gentle point of her chin. If I had to pick one, I'd say it was the people I hung out with. The sunshine blonde raised a brow in response. The people? He asked tentatively, curious as to what she meant. Felicia moved her eyes down into the top of her drink for the time being. Focusing her attention on a single thing helped clarify her thoughts. Yeah. The people I called friends weren't good for me as a person. Most guys liked me for my looks, and the girls wanted my popularity when I look back at it. Naruto's wince went unnoticed. Unsure of what he could add but needing to say something, he chimed in. Can't say I know much about that. I had maybe 5 friends total. His admission got Felicia to look up, and that's when she saw a sheepish Naruto rubbing at his head. The bashful expression on what she thought was a handsome face made her smile warmly. Thoughts of her bad friend choices already behind her. I think you'd make a pretty good friend, Whiskers. Naruto silently thanked her for using the pet name. It helped distract him from the genuine praise that would have probably made him blush. A nickname? Someone's getting bold. When their meals reached the booth, the pair had breezed past the getting-to-know-you questions and engaged each other in a more natural, free-flowing way. They looked like a pair of old friends with chemistry to match. Wait. So what did you do with the note? Engrossed in his story, Felicia all but forgot about the fresh fries on her plate. Naruto's grin stretched around a chuckle as the memories of this particular tale left him feeling amused. Nothing. The teacher saw the note. He made me stand up in front of the class, but since I hadn't read it, I had to make up some bullshit. When I finally did see what it said, the girl was so embarrassed she couldn't stop apologizing. Felicia put a hand over her mouth in an attempt to keep her giggling at a manageable level. Wow, I can't believe you got caught with a note asking you out. That never happens. So what happened next? Since I felt terrible about the whole thing, I agreed to take her on a date. We ended up going on 3 of them. By the 3rd, we realized there wasn't that romantic spark. Though, the 2 of us stayed friends. Naruto admitted with a content smile. He was happy he tried to make things work. His current date listened in silence until the very end. That's when Felicia said something that caught Naruto totally off guard. Sounds like I need 3 more dates with you if I want to be number 1. The sly smile on her face only enhanced her statement of intent. Naruto's surprise turned into a cough. When he got himself back under control, Felicia's smile had grown. Did this become a competition when I wasn't looking? There was a determination creeping into Felicia's clear eyes. It told Naruto all he needed to know, almost more than the words following it. If I'm in the field, then I want to be the best. Doesn't matter if it's a sport or as a date. The spiky-haired teenager looked at her in silence before smiling. I can respect that. When their waitress arrived with the bill, it put a momentary break in the festivities. Man, I don't even remember finishing my food. Time really does fly when you're having a good time. Felicia stopped herself upon seeing Naruto reach for his wallet. What do you think you're doing? Paying for my food. Naruto's bewilderment turned what should have been a statement into a question. No, you're not, Felicia responded so quickly it caused Naruto to pause. Yes, I am. Trying again didn't help Naruto any. If anything, repeating himself caused Felicia to shut Naruto down faster than before. Nope. Before Naruto could hope to stop her, the assertive woman handed the waitress the money they owed and sent her off. This left Naruto at the table with a deeply furrowed brow. Felicia laughed at him. Don't sit there with a sour look on your face. The staff needs to clean our table. Come on, chop chop. Her good-spirited taunts pulled another chain of grumbling complaints from the blonde man that Felicia guided out of the restaurant. Naruto felt his mood lift as he stepped into the sun. She might have outfoxed him back in the restaurant, but he had something in mind. Since you paid for lunch, why don't you let me walk you home? Blue Eyes spent a good while searching Naruto for something before Felicia agreed with a smile. I think I'd like that. From there, both young people lapsed into a companionable silence, arm in arm. With Felicia providing directions as needed, it wasn't long before the pair arrived at the small apartment that Felicia called home for the summer. Felicia untangled herself from her date and turned to face Naruto properly. That's when the smile and kind words came. Thanks for a great time, Naruto. I really enjoyed it, truthfully. Something in the back of her mind questioned if Naruto would try anything like her past dates. Would he overstep, And how would she react if he did? Her worries turned out to be unnecessary. Naruto rubbed the back of his head with a bright grin. I'm glad. Despite what I said, I didn't want you to have an awful time. Naruto was actually relieved to hear her opinion on their unplanned date. Credit to her, Felicia realized Naruto didn't plan on doing anything to officially end their date. This meant she had to make a choice. Give me your phone for a second? Huh? Oh, sure? Naruto fumbled with his phone for a moment before placing it into Felicia's outstretched hand. A minute later she returned the smartphone with a grin. There, now you have my number. I'll be in touch, Whiskers. With a parting wink, she vanished into the apartment, leaving a surprised Uzumaki standing there in silence. Naruto checked his messages. He saw a text Felicia sent on his behalf. What he read made Naruto laugh. She sure had a sense of humor. Thank you for giving me your number. I appreciate it and your beauty, Naruto. Shoving his phone back into his pocket, Naruto shook his head with a small smile as he went down the concrete staircase. What an afternoon. Lingering out in nature was standard for Naruto. That's why he found himself out on the banks of the Hudson River. He enjoyed going out of his way to take in the beauty of nature. It was a hobby of his that predated becoming the latest Toad Sage. Naruto savored the beauty. He basked in the freedom that only the outdoors provided. This feels like as good a spot as any for some meditation. I certainly know I could use the practice after going so long without it. He got comfortable watching the river flow to the south. From there, it wasn't long until his breathing and his body went still. That's when Naruto found his center of balance. Despite having gone a few months without meditating, the young Uzumaki didn't need long to capture what he was searching for. The natural energy going through New York wasn't as prevalent as in places like Konoha or Mount Myoboku. But it felt richer. Naruto still had difficulties describing the differences in a way that made sense. In, out, in, out. Without movement plaguing him, Naruto opened himself up to the world around him. He created a bond between his body and the land by mixing his chakra with natural energy. But he didn't keep it for himself. No, Naruto released the combination back into the atmosphere, stronger and more resilient than before. White markings were forming beneath his eyes as the blonde found the point of optimal balance. As Naruto entered Sage mode, a pod of whales moving through the river breached with a happy crooning sound. It was like the animals were calling out to the young man on the shore. While he and nature continued to intermingle, Naruto's thoughts strayed toward something that troubled him. Someone who bothered him. This is how it always ended when Naruto found himself with a quiet moment to think. It all came back to Thanos, the Mad Titan and collector of the Infinity Stones. Everyone living on Earth knew about the alien that came to their world and changed the course of universal history. With a single snap of his fingers, Thanos collapsed governments. He divided families and erased existences in a misguided search for balance. They called it the snap, and thanks to the Infinity Stones, Thanos got what we wanted. Half of all life gone. But there was no grateful universe, only pain. Naruto couldn't help but be reminded of Nagato and his twisted hunt for the 9 Biju. But this was much, much worse than the Akatsuki. Thanos didn't destroy one planet. The Mad Titan ruined every world out there with his semi-genocidal plan. Oh, people tried to fight. They stood up in the face of his madness, but none of the Earth's many defenders could match the power of 5 Infinity Stones. They lost their battle to keep the 6th out of Thanos' grasp. They lost. But what if? Was it his pride talking? Naruto didn't think so. He genuinely believed if he'd been on the planet during the conflict, he'd have made a difference. Unfortunately, Naruto hadn't arrived on Earth until a month after Thanos' victory. But by then, it was far too late to do anything. Not that Naruto didn't try his best. He poured through every viable source of information he could get his hands on with the help of his clones. Tens of thousands of hours were spent looking for a solution, but they all turned out to be dead ends. Did the planet's energy affect him? Or did his unwavering desire to help people burn brighter than ever because of his thoughts? Whatever the answer, Naruto suddenly felt something pushing him toward making a vow. It doesn't matter who you are or what comes next. Anyone that comes looking for trouble will have to go through Uzumaki Naruto, and that's a promise. His inner monologue was broken up by a spray of water that landed on top of the seated sage. Naruto's facial markings disappeared as he opened his eyes once more. Looking at his soaked clothing, Naruto smiled at the whales happily splashing about. Sorry, boys and girls. I don't have time to play with you today. I have to head home. If his sun reading skills were still up to snuff, he spent 3 hours out by the river, putting it somewhere around 4 o'clock. Naruto took a moment to check his surroundings but didn't see anyone. He shrugged it off after a second. Weird, he felt like someone was watching for a moment. It must have been his imagination, or his shinobi paranoia. Hidden hideout running an organization of any level takes a lot of effort and foresight. Having to manage a coalition of trained ninjas was a step beyond that. This is the lesson Electra Nachios was learning firsthand. The absurd amount of delegation and written reports she went through in a single day was mind-numbing. But when she got used to her new role, Electra found a good rhythm, and the clan as a whole benefited from her decisive way of doing business. Not that it was difficult for a clever woman like Electra to consolidate a group of warriors who lost their way because of Thanos snapping away their leadership. With the assistance of her newfound ninja minions, Electra felt herself getting closer to finishing off the group that ordered her father's death. How dare they use her to get closer to her father? The Hand Clan would pay in blood for their treachery. Her plan was simple and sweet. Use the Hand Clan to destroy them and earn revenge for her deceased father. Electra already killed the crooked cop who took her dad, so the Hand Clan was the next logical step. However, an issue arose, a problem that needed handling as soon as possible. A sect from the original Hand Clan found out about her activities and started working against her. Electra knew the trained Hand Clan fighters were of better quality than her foot soldiers, loathed as she was to admit it. The number of bodies she lost was starting to pile up. She needed an ace, a difference maker. Get in here. I have a task for you. The door quickly swung open, and a slender woman in all red kneeled in front of Electra. Her head pointed toward the ground as a sign of respect. You're to go into the city and scout for people based on combat effectiveness. Starting tomorrow, I want a list of people who can serve our cause. Don't fail me. Yes, mistress. Disappearing as quickly as she entered, the assassin woman vacated the room. Alone again, Electra sighed as she pulled out her sai from beneath the desk. Oh Matthew, what I wouldn't give for your help right now. When his phone went off, it broke the silence of an otherwise quiet walk. It also brought a chuckle out of Naruto. It's good to know a bunch of playful whales didn't wreck my phone. That'd be a tough one to explain. Because he was preoccupied imagining telling such a story, Naruto was more than a little distracted. His shinobi senses told him to get out of the way, but his body couldn't move quick enough. He ended up running into someone with a broad and rock-hard body. Literally, sorry about that, kid. A massive hand made entirely of orange rocks dropped into Naruto's field of view. After using a second to reorient himself, the blonde happily allowed himself to be hoisted back onto his feet. No, it's my fault for not paying attention to where I was going. Naruto and the man shared a respectful nod before heading their separate ways. However, Naruto did stop and look over his shoulder curiously. Orange rocks. You're all right in my book, rock dude. Putting the accidental meeting behind him, Naruto continued home. Thankfully there weren't any other delays on his way there. And after some cleaning and a nice shower, it was time for the blonde to finish making his dinner. Good thing I left the meat cooking in the crockpot all day. He needed his pot roast tender. Struck by an idea that was more fun than necessary, Naruto gathered up the carrots and potatoes and put them on 2 different cutting boards. This is definitely a reckless waste of chakra, but I'm an Uzumaki, so I say fuck it. A shroud made entirely of chakra built up around Naruto, creating a blue outline. He turned that into the infamous Uzumaki chakra chains. Reducing the number of chains down to 1, Naruto began chopping away at the vegetables. Huh. If Ka-chan saw me now, she'd either be laughing her ass off or scolding me for being so dumb. But I like to think she'd be laughing, verbal tick and all. That warm thought helped Naruto make it through another lonely night of cooking for himself, by himself. Naruto could have all the confidence in the world. Wear an easy smile every second of the day, but no matter how far he went, Naruto couldn't shake the yearning for a family. It followed him around like a second shadow. It's what every orphan wanted for themselves at some point in their life. The thought left Naruto with a whimsical smile. Maybe someday. A house filled with memories and love was the stuff of Naruto's dreams. Moving to the sink to wash his hands, the sunny-haired teenager found his kitchen filled with the sounds of his ringing phone. He cursed to himself and quickly wiped his hands on his pants. Hurrying over to the vibrating cell phone, Naruto answered the call without looking at the id. Hello? You answer the phone but can't open a text. Even girls have an ego, whiskers. Naruto didn't need to be a Mensa-level genius to figure out who called him. Felicia? It was you who sent that text? Come on, try to keep up. Yes, it was me. You would have known that if you actually opened it up. Oof. She had a point. Rubbing the back of his head, Naruto smiled sheepishly. Sorry. I was a little busy when the text came in, and then it kind of slipped my mind. Don't worry, I'm just messing with you, so I have a favor to ask you. A favor? Naruto repeated after her as he set one of his elbows on the marble countertop. I want to start at the gym until I go away to school, and I figure it'll be easier to get my butt up in the morning if I have a partner. So, what do you say? Naruto's personal training routine was 10 times more intense than any gym, but going with Felicia would kill time. So, Sure, why not? When and where? Thank God. You're a lifesaver, Naruto. Meet me at my place, say 6:30 in the morning. There's a gym 2 blocks from here. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, goodbye. Is this the best you can do? I thought you wanted to get in better shape? You won't get there if you can't keep up when things get tough. Move your legs, woman. Naruto provoking her in such blatant ways worked because of his physical appearance. The spiky-haired teen didn't look like someone who'd been working out for the last 3 hours. He wasn't even breathing hard. Felicia couldn't say the same. Unlike her training partner, she appeared hard at work. The proof was in her healthy sweat and flushed face. She was the epitome of effort and exertion, all wrapped up in one place. Shut up. Huh. Huh. Not everyone is a stamina monster like you. I thought you aimed to be the best. Where'd all that fire go? Right now, I'm hearing a bunch of worthless excuses. Having been at this for a few months, Naruto knew what buttons to press. He didn't always use these motivational tactics, but they were effective when Felicia ran on fumes. Naruto understood the power of doubt. When it came to motivators, there were few more effective than doubt. And for someone hyper-competitive like Felicia Hardy, it'd do wonders. After all, it worked on a younger and dumber version of himself. The memories from his past left Naruto smiling. Things got tough, but Naruto wouldn't trade his life for anyone else's. His life experiences turned him into the person he was today. One of Felicia's fatigued grunts shook Naruto out of his thoughts. Her legs moved like a lead weight, but she refused to let it stop her. Felicia ruthlessly stomped down her exhaustion and doubled down to finish her run. Grr, I'll show you worthless, you bastard. That's more like it. I want that intensity going forward. Naruto didn't take the insults personally. He'd be more worried if Felicia didn't snap back. The passing venom in her voice meant everything was working like a charm. He left Felicia to work out while he spent his time thinking about these last few months. Their mornings were for training. When afternoon rolled around, it was time for lunch and always together. Looking back on their time together, Naruto couldn't select one memory over the others. He simply enjoyed the time they spent together as a whole. More so, he enjoyed having a friend again. The kind of fun and interaction he shared with Felicia wasn't present in his life during recent years. Naruto had friends in school, but they came and went with the bell. Hanging out with the young woman next to him was a conscious choice on his behalf, and one of his better choices in general. Phew, huh. Done. Her hard work was rewarded by Naruto with a water bottle. A grateful and thirsty Felicia took the bottle and chugged down its contents. Breathing out a huge sigh, she slumped forward into the treadmill console. Take that. Told you I'd do it. His belief in her never wavered, despite what he said. The warm smile he showed her was proof of that. A glance down told Naruto how far he ran alongside Felicia. He'd be keeping that number to himself. No need to ruin her hard-earned high. You sure did. Congrats, you finished your first half marathon, and in good time too. Her content expression wasn't tarnished in the slightest by the sweat or tiny stray hairs sticking to her forehead because of the sweat. Felicia refused to let Naruto's efforts on her behalf go unacknowledged. I couldn't have gotten this far without your help, Naruto. It was only natural for Naruto to wave her off. He never cared much for the idea of credit. That hadn't changed. The notion of him being responsible for Felicia's growth was absurd. Nonsense, you put in all of the effort. I was just here for moral support. It's what friends do. Best friends. Felicia's voice held nothing but confidence as she corrected the statement Naruto put forth. In her mind, that's what she and Naruto were. Her fellow blonde was everything her high school friends weren't in the best ways. Say what? Whiskers, we literally hang out for hours every single day. I've seen you daily for the last 3 months. If we aren't best friends, I don't know what we are. And honestly, it felt great calling Naruto that, her best friend, hers. Using laughter as a means to hide his embarrassment, a sheepish Naruto silently agreed with her rationale. He never really thought about giving their relationship a title, but Felicia wasn't wrong. No, you're right, absolutely right. And you know what? Since you kicked ass today, lunch is on me. The promise of a reward sent a burst of much-needed energy through Felicia's worn-down body. Bounding over to Naruto, she looped her arms around him mid-laugh. You're the best personal trainer a girl could ask for. Most men would die for a hug from Felicia Hardy in a sports bra. Not Naruto. Not now. He just grimaced as she got her sweat all over him. Gross. Let go. He whined pitifully in between her arms. Never. Hold still, and let me show my affection. She pushed herself further into their embrace and purposefully so. This time her face landed against the crook of Naruto's neck. It was a golden opportunity for a sweaty nuzzling of Naruto's neck. His second grimace put a smirk on Felicia's face. That will teach you to work circles around me, Whiskers. If I'm suffering through stickiness and sweat, then you are too. Not only that, but she got the chance to feel her best friend's attractive body. That's a win-win. Breaking free from her snare, Naruto wore a decent share of Felicia's sweat on him. Was it gross? Yes, but it wasn't as bad as blood and gore. Hallmarks of his last profession. I think it's time to hit the showers. Felicia tucked her arms behind her back and smiled, acting innocent despite what she had just done. Try and hurry up this time, Whiskers. I want the best pizza in town, and I want it quick. Naruto gawked openly at the gall his best friend showed. How dare she falsely claim he took too long when it was him waiting on her. Unfortunately for Naruto, he didn't get the chance to complain. Not with Felicia already walking away from him. While Naruto stood still in shock, another guy from the gym walked up to him. The stranger also found his gaze locked on Felicia's last location. I can't blame you for staring, man. She's hot as hell. Shut up. The summer came and went before Naruto knew it. Now the young Uzumaki found himself a day removed from his 19th birthday. Most people would throw themselves a party. But to Naruto, his birthday was a day of mourning, not celebration. How could he bring himself to party on the date he lost both of his parents? Naruto understood his mother and father better than most. He knew what they wanted for him. He knew they'd wish for him to enjoy his life instead of looking back on what could have been. But doing that was easier said than done. Running a hand down the front of his face, the bed-ridden blonde grumbled into the darkness created by his palm. Once his hand dropped onto the bed, it was just Naruto staring blankly at his ceiling. There's no reason to lay around all day thinking about this. Again. He forced himself out of bed with an overdue roll, leaving his blanket behind in a bunched-up mess. Already going toward the kitchen, Naruto had water in hand. It was his much-needed cure for a dry mouth. This time Naruto's sigh was one of relief. He wiped his mouth, rubbing away the water and looking at the overcast sky. October in New York. The months are the same, but the weather couldn't be more different from Konoha. Ah, that reminds me. I need to buy some candy for Halloween. Apartment or not, the kids will want their candy. And I don't want to disappoint them. Thinking of the sweet-giving holiday returned a characteristic grin to Naruto's face. I also need a good workout after doing shit all yesterday. Alright, now that's an idea. Let's take a trip down to Silver's gym and see if I can find anyone dumb enough to box with me. AKA, fresh meat. The idea of beating up someone older and more experienced than him put a shine in his blue eyes. It was too bad most of the regulars wizened up and stopped accepting his challenges. That was a good 10 days. Naruto was gearing up for the day ahead when the sound of gunshots echoed through the area. With his enhanced senses, the loud bangs were 10 times louder, and as a result, Naruto jumped in alarm. When the trained soldier dropped down, he held his kunai in a death grip. The tool was freshly withdrawn from the small pocket seal printed on his inner forearm. Naruto used invisible ink to keep his tattoo like Fuinjutsu from drawing attention. Upon realizing there was no danger, he took a moment to calm his scrambled battle instincts. New York might be quieter now, but it won't change completely. Snap or not. He was still getting used to it, but there were moments where the unpredictable nature of the city caught him off guard. Naruto sent his all-purpose shinobi tool back to its resting place with a quick burst of chakra. Time to get back on track, first things first. Get some candy and then kick some ass. Also, let's throw some ramen on the list. Now that's a schedule one can get behind. Today wasn't looking too bad, Empire State University, that night. Felicia Hardy's day wasn't looking too bad. After she crushed the quiz in her philosophy class, a handful of her dorm sisters convinced Felicia to attend a party with them on campus. She was hesitant at first, but the idea of going in a group helped swing her. Maybe going to the party and blowing off some steam would help her in the long run. The start of the semester had been a pain, and this seemed like a decent enough outlet. Though she wasn't so sure about her peers and their choice of outfits. Felicia picked a simple shirt, fitted jeans, and a bolo jacket for herself. However, a few of her dorm mates wore low-cut dresses of all things. She knew they wanted the attention, but the cold must have been a bitch and a half. Better them than me. I know what you're thinking. I see it too. The other girls think if they show out, they'll hook, and I quote, some hunky juniors or seniors. Really, I'm not sure if I should laugh or feel sad for them. A young woman with brown hair let her opinion be known. Her coy grin hinted at her being closer to the laughing spectrum than the sad one. Felicia wouldn't leave her wry snort bottled up. It sounded absurd when said aloud but nailed the airheaded sorority girls to a T. Why are you coming again? You already have a boyfriend, Aaron. You're right. He's coming to the party too. We're gonna hang out. What about you? How come you haven't hooked up with anyone yet? A girl like you can get anyone she wants. I'm sure of it. Her immediate response to Aaron's innocent question was a visible frown. Felicia followed that up by waving off the notion, something she picked up during her time with Naruto. With these boys? No thanks, I got enough of that in high school. Aaron laughed and patted a grumbling Felicia on the shoulder. She could only imagine how many horny idiots chased her fellow female around like lost puppies. I hear you. Well, at least try to enjoy the party? That's why I'm here. Look sharp, sister. We're here. Felicia looked up at Aaron's insistence. Felicia didn't know why she expected something different from the building. The dorms here all looked identical to each other. This was no exception. We're here, girls. Remember, I called dibs on the baseball captain. Realizing where the conversation was heading, Felicia made the executive decision to tune the others out as their group entered the party. The first thing to greet Felicia was the loud music. Then came all the shouting. It didn't surprise her that people were already well into their night of drinking. I already regret making this decision. Her feelings must have reached her face since Aaron put a friendly hand on her shoulder. You're more than welcome to hang out with us, Felicia. I wouldn't mind. Aaron offered kindly. Thanks, but you don't have to do that. I can figure something out. Go on, have fun with your boyfriend. Despite her feelings about the party, Felicia would rather be alone than a third wheel. The latter would be infinitely more awkward in her personal opinion. If that's what you want, I won't push you. Good luck out there. Aaron went to find her boyfriend, leaving Felicia to work through the shifting mob of party-going students. Several guys tried getting her attention but were shrugged off as Felicia made her way to one of the refreshment tables. Picking a sealed water bottle as her drink of choice, she took up a quiet spot from where she could watch the party. While she wanted to avoid gatherings like this, doing something other than studying was a balm on her fatigued mental. In other words, it was a sorely needed break. Is that you, Felicia? What are you doing here? Felicia stopped sipping on her water and looked toward the voice coming from her left side. She quickly recognized the young man calling out to her. Ryan. The guarded nature of her voice implied a mixture of conflicted feelings. Why did she feel that way? Because she and Ryan had something of a history. You see, at the start of the semester, she and Ryan were paired together by their teacher. From there, a relationship grew between them. They went from partners to friends. Parts of Ryan reminded Felicia of Naruto, making it easier for her to open up. Things were moving smoothly between the two. It appeared there wasn't an end in sight until things changed for the worse. That change came about due to Ryan's comments about advancing their relationship. Felicia pushed back on the idea, but Ryan wouldn't let it go. In the end, Felicia had no choice but to cut Ryan off entirely. That was 2 weeks ago. And this was the first time Felicia spoke with Ryan since then. Yeah. It's been a bit. You look good. Compared to the environment around him, Ryan's voice was quiet. However, the words still found a way to Felicia's ears. Unfortunately for him, she wanted nothing to do with the compliment. Ryan destroyed any chance of Felicia liking him in that way. So his remark just made her feel uncomfortable. Thanks. Ryan looked over his shoulder and was struck with an idea. He deemed it good enough to smile about. How about we go dance with everyone? Looks like it could be fun. His brown eyes held no shortage of expectation as they glimpsed Felicia. She answered with a quick shake of the head. Her refusal also sent her straight hair into a slight flutter that punctuated the definitiveness of her answer. Sorry, but I don't think that's a good idea. Oh, how about we just talk? Catch up. Despite struggling for a reason to stay around, Ryan's smile persisted on his face. At the very least, he believed in himself and his chances at winning Felicia over. The answer is no, I'm going to pass. Excuse me. Felicia refused to let him respond further. She vanished among the dense grouping of students, leaving Ryan behind. Ryan's eyes dallied on Felicia before being joined by a pair of his friends. They were quick in pulling Ryan back to the festivities. Felicia made the opposite choice. On the outside, Ryan looked harmless, but something about him put her on high alert. It had been that way since the day she ended their association. Felicia wanted to avoid him whenever possible. The wandering Hardy found her sanctuary in the ladies' bathroom. Tucked away from everyone, Felicia dropped her guard for a second. Staring at herself in the mirror over the sink, she confided in her reflection. I have this awful feeling in my gut. I need to make a call. This might be surprising, but Naruto knew how to drive a vehicle. He even owned one. However, thanks to his shinobi skill set, he rarely used it. Ninja running speeds and all that good stuff. But sometimes, a car was necessary. This happened to be one of those times. Hey, I need a huge favor, Naruto. Unlike driving his car, hearing from Felicia wasn't rare. What really surprised Naruto was how Felicia asked for help. Hearing Felicia Hardy, of all people, speak bluntly set off alarms in Naruto's head. Felicia Hardy and bluntness weren't a thing. Not that it mattered, Uzumaki Naruto was always there for his friends, full stop. I don't feel comfortable on campus. Can I stay with you until Monday, Tuesday at the latest? Naturally, Naruto told Felicia that wouldn't be a problem and went to pick her up, hence the need for a car and his trip to Empire State University. Actually, Naruto was going faster than he should have, thanks to the worry hidden in Felicia's voice. A combination of calculated speeding and no traffic helped Naruto make excellent time. He made the 30-minute drive in less than 20 and avoided any police attention. The more complicated part was finding the correct building. Felicia's text directions helped, but the search cost him around 10 minutes. I think this is the place. Naruto couldn't be 100% certain. The building matched the description and location in Felicia's text, but all the buildings looked similar. There's only one way to find out. Sticking his phone back in his pocket, Naruto stepped into the big building. He winced immediately as the blaring music blasted his sensitive hearing. Naruto grumbled about his hate for large parties as he forced chakra into his ears. He used it to block out the louder pitches and sounds that wreaked havoc on his eardrums. I should check if anyone's seen Felicia around. Naruto selected the person nearest to him. He looked a little red in the face, but Naruto couldn't afford to be picky. Have you seen a girl around? Pale blonde hair? Blue eyes? Dude, look around. There's a lot of blondes with blue eyes at the party. Sorry, but I can't help you. Just grab a beer and relax like the rest of us. The whiskered teen dropped an annoyed sigh in response. Naruto decided to rely on something far more reliable than word of mouth. He opened his senses and was greeted by a nasty source of negativity. Thanks for the parting gift, Fox. Naruto's suspicions were heightened by the pair of guys standing near the door. His shinobi brain said they weren't loitering but standing guard. They were his target. The chance to work his Uzumaki charm was shut down quick. The teen standing on the right greeted and dismissed Naruto in the same breath. Hey, pal. You don't want to go this way. Some girl made a real mess in there. Lies. I don't have time to mess around with you two. This little trick wouldn't have worked on a shinobi, but a civilian was fair game. Ha! An Uzumaki and former Jinchuriki doing genjutsu. Eat your hearts out, Uchiha. Megan. Kokoni Arizu no Jutsu. Demonic illusion, false surroundings technique. The illusion showed the sentries a fake party playing out in real time. Naruto stepped between them and forced his way into the bathroom. A poor attempt at barring the door from the inside was shattered effortlessly. But Naruto's focus wasn't on the garbage cans he knocked aside. What the fuck are you doing? A tangible wave of anger came off Naruto and spread through the room. Along with it came a weight that pushed down on Ryan. What Naruto saw that made him so angry was Ryan pinning Felicia to the wall. Worst, he saw ripped clothing on the ground between them. Hey. You can't be here. Get out, Ga. Naruto shot across the gap faster than Ryan could hope to follow. With only one hand, he hoisted Ryan up by his throat. Naruto ignored his choking sounds and dragged him away from a misty-eyed Felicia. The wrathful Uzumaki was immensely relieved to see Felicia with her bra and jeans still on. Good, he wouldn't have to kill this punk. Ryan watched a black film crawling into the blue of Naruto's eyes. It was a phenomenon he chalked up to his oxygen-deprived brain seeing things. Ryan had better things to worry about. Like saving his ass. It's not what you think. Please, let me go. Shut up, trash. Naruto hurled the garbage in his hands through the nearest stall door with a crash. He watched Ryan's head bounce off the wall, knocking him out on impact. Fittingly, the piece of crap landed in a toilet bowl with its seat cover lifted up. Every ounce of rage melted away when Naruto looked at Felicia. She was upon him quite fast in her own right. Hugging him as tight as she could, Felicia cried against Naruto's shoulder now that the ordeal was over. Naruto held her and tried reassuring her with whispered words. Naruto slowly eased her from the hug and took his long sleeve off. He offered it to the half-naked woman. Here, put this on. He'd make do with the tank top he was wearing beneath. Felicia hurried to put the shirt on. Covered and feeling more secure, she buried her face in Naruto's chest. The tears were quick to follow. Their hasty exit happened to grab the attention of Eren and her boyfriend. What's going on here? Felicia, why are you crying? The worry in Eren's voice was genuine. Ryan, he. Every word she tried speaking ended up making her tongue go limp. Either that or her throat tightened. Thankfully, Naruto saw her struggle and stepped in on her behalf. Ryan tried forcing himself on Felicia. I stopped him. Credit to Eren, she didn't let Naruto's stone-faced expression stop her from raising her suspicions. And who are you exactly? Eren, this is Naruto. The guy the first told you about. She might be shaken, but Felicia wouldn't allow Naruto's intentions to be called into question. You're that Naruto? Naruto looked at Felicia yet didn't voice his question for obvious reasons. Probably, but this isn't the best time for introductions. Eren agreed. You're right. Come on, let's go back to the dorm. Actually, Naruto is taking me to the city. I'm going to stay with him. I need to get away. Being with her friends helped dull the edge, but Felicia still found herself jumpy around so many people. If you're sure. I trust Naruto. The quickness of Felicia's answer hid her true feelings. Felicia didn't believe herself capable of trusting anyone but Naruto at this time. Let's go. Naruto's apartment. This is it, my place. The spare room is ready for you if you're looking to get some rest. Naruto assumed that would be the case. It might only be 11:05, but the day was an eventful one for his guest. Rest would do her well. Felicia directed a half-hearted smile at Naruto after looking at his apartment. I always figured you'd live in a more minimalistic home, Naruto. Come on, you act like I went overboard or something. It's not that bad. He defended himself with a sheepish rub of his head. The only large purchases he made were the sectional sofa, a new microwave, smart television, and of course, the beds. His predictably endearing response made his guest smile honestly. Do you think we could find something to watch? Felicia doubted she could fall asleep right now. With his goal of making Felicia as comfortable as humanly possible, Naruto wouldn't be denying her anytime soon. That's not a problem. Should I scrounge up some snacks? Real people don't use that word, Whiskers. Naruto took the mature route of sticking his tongue out at Felicia. He excused himself with a harumph before going into the kitchen for snacks. This allowed Felicia to pick something she wanted to watch while waiting for him. When he returned, Naruto's arms were stacked with junk food. Seriously, it looked like he emptied his whole pantry. Wait, did you pull up anime? The level of surprise he showed alongside his expression left Felicia feeling a little embarrassed. What if I did? Nothing, I'm surprised, that's all. I thought you'd be too cool for something like anime. He clarified his vague outburst before it got him in trouble. Naruto unloaded the trove of snack foods onto the coffee table, but before he sat down, he had another stop to make. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab some blankets. Looking at everything Naruto brought, Felicia shook her head fondly. You big idiot, you don't have to go this far. But thank you. She whispered to herself, already feeling better in the quiet setting of her best friend's home. Hey, I just sneezed. Were you talking about me in here? That's a myth, stupid. Hurry up and sit down so we can start the show. Though she rolled her eyes at his silliness, Felicia couldn't stop herself from smiling. Hi. No need to bite my head off, sheesh. Naruto flopped onto the couch with a happy sigh. He was quickly joined by Felicia, who scooched over to him. She surprised Naruto by taking his hand under the blanket. He responded by squeezing her hand in a show of support. As the anime started, both young people settled in for the night. Felicia stayed past her initial estimate of 4 days, which Naruto welcomed. During that time, she decided to drop her classes at the university. She just wasn't comfortable with the idea of crossing paths with Ryan. It was another choice Naruto supported. It wasn't until Thursday that Felicia traded his couch for the spare bedroom. Some days she woke up looking like shit, and others, she was right as rain. To Naruto, both of these were steps in the recovery process. They were 2 weeks out from the incident in the bathroom, and by now, Felicia was comfortable enough in Naruto's home to move freely. With Naruto's permission, of course. Her search for the blonde took Felicia to the one place she hadn't seen over the last month. She opened the door tentatively, letting her in the sight of Naruto mid-workout with a heavy bag that swung on a thick metal chain. A spellbound spectator watched Naruto alternate between fluid dodging and fierce striking. Each blow Naruto scored made the whole bag shudder. It also helped Felicia envision her new goal. Naruto was clearly strong enough to help her with her plans. Shaking herself free from her trance, Felicia called to the unaware blonde. Hard at work, aren't we, Whiskers? Her unexpected interruption caused Naruto's shoulders to hike upward. Thankfully, he repressed any form of violence that usually came from surprising a ninja. Good morning. Teach me. What? Teach me. Teach me how to fight. Her determination to get strong flowed into her hands, which balled into a pair of clenched fists. With the skill Naruto showed, she wouldn't be anyone's victim. She could get her revenge. However, an experienced shinobi like Naruto saw something more. He detected a darkness in Felicia that worried him. There were assumptions, but Naruto was willing to be proven wrong. Actually, he'd prefer to be wrong about this. You want to learn how to fight? Why? When she shut her eyes, Felicia saw Ryan and his sickening grin. Never again. He has to pay. I'll make him pay for what he tried doing to me. That trash needs to die. Because her eyes were closed, she missed Naruto's disappointment turning into profound sadness. He knew it was coming, but that didn't change what he had to say. No. Felicia's eyes reflected a combination of shock, hurt, and betrayal. Despite the intensity of her emotional stare, Naruto didn't back down. What? It never crossed her mind that Naruto, of all people, would deny her this. Why? Why won't you help me? You know what he did, what he wanted to do. No matter how she looked at it, the hurt woman couldn't understand why Naruto was going against her. Naruto, of all people, should realize what this meant to her. He was her friend. He was meant to be on her side. You're right. I do know what happened, but what you're talking about isn't something you take lightly. If you follow this path, there might be no coming back. You realize that, right? Revenge will take a part of you that you'll never get back, Felicia. As he spoke, a sadness spread over Naruto. Revenge was a terrible business. He saw what it did firsthand and wanted no part in endorsing it. Felicia Hardy was no killer. Her hands didn't have blood on them. This wasn't a shinobi trained to take a human life, she was a civilian. There were so many words she wanted to say, but none of them came out. The bubbling rage in Felicia made it hard to think, let alone talk. Somehow she managed a seething retort. If you aren't with me, we're done here. Storming off, the harsh sound of slamming doors followed her warpath as she gathered her belongings and left Naruto's apartment for good. Naruto withered upon himself, deflating with a tired sigh. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you, Felicia. It's not something I enjoy doing, but I refuse to be an accessory to your descent into the dark. The emptiness of his apartment wasn't lost on Naruto. With a long breath going through his lungs, he pivoted back to the heavy bag and worked his aggression out on the inanimate object. Thud. Thud. When you extend a helping hand, be wary. For those in front, you may bite that hand instead of taking the help you offer. Thud. I tried helping you. The rest is in your hands, Felicia. December, 2 weeks before Christmas. The holidays is when Naruto's charitable spirit was at its strongest. He could have bought anything he wanted and called it a present to himself, but that was boring. Instead, Naruto visited nearby orphanages and brought gifts with him. He could live for another 300 years and never forget the faces of the kids who walked into a room full of Christmas presents. This year was shaping up to be no different. After a successful stretch of casino busting the month prior, Naruto positioned himself to bring Christmas to 5 different orphanages across the state. His clones set up all the arrangements. All he had to do was buy the gifts. And that required taking a boatload of cash from his bank. Hopefully, they didn't give him too much trouble over the amount like last Christmas. Being stuck in a quiet bank office wasn't high on Naruto's list of things to do. Naruto walked into a line of people waiting to be served. Shrugging, he slotted himself into place at the back and waited his turn. Since he didn't have anything better to do, Naruto put his hands in his pockets and looked around. If this guy tells me it's too dangerous to have this much cash, I might just laugh in his face. The amused teenager told himself as he idly watched a little girl run to her mother. The little lady was clearly pleased with the candy she got from one of the bank's employees. The general good vibes were dashed when cursing, and a pained groan hit the air. Naruto and everyone present turned to face the commotion. Some gasped while others screamed because 3 men in masks barged in with guns in hand. One of the thugs subdued the security guard, leaving the poor man with a thick bruise on his temple. The other 2 criminals were already moving further in to take control. If you don't want to get hurt, you better listen up. Everyone to the wall without windows, stay down, and we won't have to shoot you. He won the anxious crowd's obedience by whipping his firearm in their direction. Naruto followed suit, for now. No one realized the security cameras were broken, short-circuited by a burst of Naruto's chakra. He didn't need or want his involvement on record. You behind the counter, keep your hands where I can see them. We wouldn't want you pressing any buttons. All we want is the money. Do you understand me? While the criminal indulged himself on a power trip, Naruto scoped the area for possible ways to tackle this problem. Unfortunately, the only guard present had his hands cuffed behind his back. He wouldn't be of any use. The others around him were also looking, but none seemed ready or willing to act. Not that Naruto blamed them for valuing their lives. No. I want to go home, mommy. That was the little girl from earlier. Old enough to understand something was wrong. The young child sobbed despite her mother's attempts to comfort her. Shish. Shish. I know you're scared, but you have to be brave for mommy. Try as she might, the girl couldn't control her fears, and it only added to an already tense situation. The robber at the teller's desk grew tired of the child's constant cries. He snapped at his fellow thief. Will you hurry up and do your fucking job? Shut them up, I'm trying to think over here. The thug tasked with crowd control didn't help things by standing directly over the terrified child. Shut her up, woman. I'm trying, please don't hurt her, please. Then try fucking harder, or else someone is getting hurt. The masked man cemented his threat by aiming his gun at them, or at least he tried. Because that's when Naruto launched into action. Coming in from the man's right side, Naruto took the wrist holding the gun and squeezed it hard enough that the joint cracked. Fuck. Disarmed by the pain, the robber dropped his gun. Naruto caught the weapon in his other hand, and in a decisive moment, he had the man's arm behind his back and the firearm to the side of his head. Naruto's spectacular and sudden action got the whole bank's attention. Ripping the mask off his hostage's face, Naruto eyed the remaining two gunmen coldly as they aimed at him with their guns. The blonde was painfully aware of how bad things could go if he wasn't careful. Drop your guns. His demand was met by glares and sneers. Both men's facial reactions leaked through the assorted holes cut into their face coverings. You think you're some kind of hero? It's still 2 against 1, kid. The camera already knows this guy's face. Why wouldn't he tell the cops everything about you two if it saves his ass? How I see it, you two are running out of time quickly. The confidence Naruto exuded rattled the already nervous robbers. Naruto could tell this group was filled with amateurs at best, an exploitable weakness if there ever was one. A shaking gun was the first crack in the petty criminal's composure. His hand wasn't the only thing shaking. The masked man's voice also faltered as he tried showing that he was the one in control here. We can still kill you. Naruto smiled when they brought up the idea of death. You could try, but you wouldn't make it 2 hours before the police hunt you down and shove you into the worst prison possible. They'll look for you everywhere. Your house. Your girl's place. Even your parents, but hey, maybe you'll get lucky. Naruto picked out the leftmost man like a hawk does its prey. How he fidgeted at the mention of his parents wasn't lost on Naruto. Undaunted by the threat of their guns, the whiskered teen forged on. Or you can turn around right now, and you might get out of the state before they catch you. So, how much are you two ready to risk? The whole building waited anxiously to see who cracked first. Fuck this. I'm out of here, man. One of the masked gunmen apparently didn't like his chances. Seeing Naruto's lack of fear, he decided to cut his losses. And where one went, the other followed. Off they went running in hopes of saving themselves. Once Naruto was sure they were gone for good, he slammed the butt of the gun into his hostage's head. The criminal crumbled to the ground unconscious. Naruto helped the bank guard up, freeing the woozy man from his handcuffs. Then, Naruto used said cuffs on the man he just disabled. Is everyone alright? One person on the floor had trouble breathing, but his inhaler fixed that problem. Otherwise, the only innocent hurt in the robbery debacle was a concussed guard. That alone made Naruto smile. A tug at the back of his pant leg turned the blonde around. It was the same little girl from earlier, and now she was looking at him with big brown eyes. Thank you for saving me and my mom, mister. Are you a superhero? Naruto couldn't lie to her, even if it was the easy way out. Not with her big, innocent eyes looking at him so curiously. No, I'm not a superhero. I just like helping people when I can. But in a young child's mind, those two things were synonymous. He said no, and yet, the girl heard yes. The kind child offered him the same sucker he saw earlier. Here, mister, have this. He took the candy gently from her hand, then lowered himself to a knee in front of the girl. Meanwhile, the mother watched the two interact with a small smile. What's your name? Olivia. Olivia? That's a nice name. I don't do good things for presents, Olivia. I do good things because it's the right thing to do. I want you to remember that. Can you do that for me? Naruto asked as he handed the sucker back. Her eyes went from the candy to Naruto a few times before a huge grin split her face. You got it. Wait. Mister, what's your name? I'll tell you, but only if you keep it a secret. He fulfilled his end of the bargain when Olivia nodded her head hastily. My name is Naruto. It's nice to meet you, Olivia. It wasn't surprising to see Olivia's face scrunch at his strange-sounding name. What surprised Naruto was when the little lady managed to say his name back on her first try. Okay. Naruto. I'll remember that, promise. With the rascal returning to her mother, Naruto picked now as the time to make his exit. The last thing he wanted was the police questioning him about what happened here. Silent rather than sneaky, Naruto slipped out of the bank. Mommy. Mommy. If we get the dog that looks like a fox, I know what to name it. After what happened today, the mother planned on buying her daughter whatever she wanted, Shiba Inu included. What's that, sweetheart? Naruto. Next day, unlike most people, Naruto had no problems with snow or the cold. Those that called him crazy didn't run as hot as Uzumaki Naruto. He dubbed his super crazy metabolism as his genetic counter to the cold. This internal heat made walks in the winter something worth looking forward to, especially when there was lots of snow. It made the walks feel more natural. Too bad an uninvited tagalong decided to follow him on his walk. Talk about a buzzkill. You're not nearly as quiet as you think. You might as well come out and tell me what you want. His call-out went unanswered until Naruto saw someone coming out of the trees on his left. The stalker cleared a 4-foot snowbank in a single jump. They revealed themselves to be none other than Steve Rogers, Captain America. The famous figure looked decidedly less star-spangled in his black thermal sweater and cargo pants. He appeared incredibly warm with his thick boots, just not very patriotic. However, Steve's face was too recognizable to be mistaken for someone else in New York. I didn't have Captain America on my stalker bingo card. An expressive face like Steve's meant Naruto got to see how bothered his offhanded comment made the man. I am not a stalker. The legendary soldier came on strongly enough that Naruto could only smirk at him. Naruto took the theatrical route. He waved his hand flippantly, dismissing the comment and dispersing the breath cloud in front of him. Right. You were just following me from a creepy distance. Definitely not stalking me. The captain had enough good graces to realize his mistake. That's why the original superhero sighed and pinched his nose. The cloak and dagger approach was never my style. Hence Natasha's presence on his team for so long. A straightforward kind of guy, huh? I respect that, so I'll be straight with you. What does Captain America want with me? Naruto and the man across from him were alike in this regard. Which is ironic, considering most shinobi were masters of stealth and nuance. That's not to say Naruto couldn't be stealthy when he needed to be. Please, call me Steve. Alright, Steve. The question remains the same. Crossing his arms over his muscular chest, the de facto leader of the Avengers started his explanation in earnest. Word has gotten around of a young man saving a bank filled with hostages. Naturally, I'm curious about a potential hero popping up in my own backyard, so to speak. Naruto understood where Steve was taking this and tried cutting the speculation off at the pass. This is the exact scenario the younger man wanted to avoid. I'm afraid you have the wrong guy, Steve. I'm not a hero, just your average kid fresh out of high school. The smirk Steve put on his face suggested he knew more than Naruto was comfortable with. No, I'm sure of it. My source was adamant about a blonde teenager with whisker marks of all things. His average bullshit wouldn't fool Steve Rogers, so Naruto dropped the act. That didn't mean Naruto had to like it. Damn birthmarks. Word sure got around fast. How'd you figure it out? It's pure luck. One of the people at the bank that day also attends my self-help meetings. He brought you up during his time to share with the group. From there, I decided to follow up with some of my sources. After their defeat at the hands of Thanos, there wasn't much that demanded Captain America's attention. So when Naruto's story reached him, Steve leapt at the chance to do something. In a flash, the laid-back expression on Naruto's face turned serious. He didn't expect anything nefarious from America's golden boy, but he wouldn't be caught unprepared. So what now? Here to scold me? Question me? Steve accepted Naruto's reservations instead of being annoyed by them. He supposed it was understandable, all things considered. Here he was, Captain America, showing up out of nowhere with questions in hand. How Nick Fury of him. I'm here to thank you. What you did in that bank saved a lot of people. Our world needs heroes, new heroes. When Steve spoke, it was with both hope and pride. A hero? Me? I don't think so, Captain. It was a coincidence that I was in the right place at the right time. Anyone could have done the same thing given a chance. Every ounce of Naruto's ninja blood rejected the idea of a hero. It didn't matter that multiple countries hailed him as their hero. Naruto didn't believe good and evil worked like that. The world was much more complex than that. What started as a chuckle became full laughter thanks to Naruto's answer. Try as he might, Steve couldn't stop himself from having a good laugh. You remind me a lot of Tony. Not too much, I hope. No offense to your friend, but from what I hear, the only thing bigger than Tony Stark's bank account is his ego. Steve's lingering smile gave off an air of yearning, like he was reminiscing on an old memory. Tony would agree with you, but I think he's mellowed out since the birth of his daughter. Seeing how Naruto didn't know enough about Tony Stark to contribute, their conversation hit an awkward wall. If that's all, I'll be on my way. Hold it. Outwardly, Naruto was calm as he turned around. However, internally, he cursed and complained about Captain America's insistence. Yeah? What is it? The famous shield bearer from World War II answered Naruto's questions by lowering himself into a fighting position. When Naruto saw this, he turned to sarcasm. You're gonna beat me up? Great. If I'm right about you, you'll be more than capable of defending yourself. Steve's intentions to fight Naruto were set in place as he stepped forward purposefully. You're not letting this go, are you? Not unless you can teleport yourself out of here. Steve's voice was rich with his hard-nosed brand of determination. Huh. You have no idea, Cap. But I'm not gonna show that trick here. Still, the thought left Naruto with a twinge of a smile as he prepared himself for a fight. Seeing how he instigated the whole thing, Captain Rogers took it upon himself to open the proceedings. In the past, he had a shield, but that didn't mean he was helpless without one. Steve Rogers threw a nasty right hook when needed. Training for years with Bucky saw to that. Naruto was far from defenseless. He also had plenty of training to fall back on during a situation like this. The younger man weaved away from the first 2 punches thrown at him, but Naruto had to block the final strike with his forearms. His guard helped hide the frown sitting on his face. Damn. I'm too rusty if I'm this slow on my feet. Like anything else, combat skills atrophied if they weren't used semi-frequently. Sure, raw talent carried Naruto past the average Joe, but Captain America wasn't some middle-of-the-road thug with an ego bigger than his brain. This was another trained fighter very much in his prime. Nimbly sidestepping to the superhero's right, a fast jab in the ribs from Naruto weakened Steve's stance enough for Naruto to shoulder him backward and create breathing space. The winter setting finally made itself known. When Steve stepped back, his foot landed on a patch of ice. Good guy or not, the first Avenger's pride was thankful he avoided an embarrassing tumble into the snowbank. Instinct carried his hands up before his eyes. It turned out to be the right move on Steve's part because he caught the fist Naruto sent for his jaw. From there, things devolved into a test of strength. As both men tried forcing their physical will on the other, the following moments ended in a complete stalemate. This annoyed Naruto and surprised Steve. That serum and his training are no joke. He's a lot stronger than he looks. Neither Steve nor Naruto expressed their thoughts vocally, but one look into their eyes showed a budding respect. A breath later and the pair separated as far as they were allowed. In a short time, Steve learned important pieces of information about Naruto. The younger man hit hard, moved fast, and possessed incredible reflexes. Each of these qualities surpassed that of an average person. This led Steve to ask, "Are you a mutant?" "Nope. Nothing against them, but I'm 100% Hum-Ga." Naruto's reply was interrupted by a surprisingly fast knee to the stomach. It was a good surprise attack, but he didn't let Steve get away unscathed. The Toad Sage grabbed Steve by the sides of his skull and headbutted him hard. NRGH. Really? A headbutt? Groaning, Steve checked his nose for permanent damage. He was relieved there wasn't any blood or fractures. There was a moment where he thought Naruto broke his nose. "You're the one who sucker punched me. Or, I guess, sucker knee." Naruto wasn't willing to take the flak for something when he was provoked into reacting. Even with the throbbing pain in the bridge of his nose, Steve smirked at Naruto's retort. "Fair is fair, I suppose. But don't slow down on me. I can do this all day." Is something wrong?" Naruto felt obligated to coax something from his opponent after watching Steve slap a palm against his forehead. The action came out of nowhere, literally. It was kind of weird, actually. "It's nothing. I thought I got rid of that line. Turns out, it's still following me around all these years later." At the very least, none of his friends were around to hear what they dubbed one of Captain America's greatest hits. "I'm sorry." Naruto's total lack of understanding manifested in a confusion-heaped apology. Having no idea what Captain America was on about didn't stop the shinobi from trying to find a way out. "So, how about we call it here? Draw sound good?" His fleeting hopes were metaphorically crushed beneath the snow-caked soles of the time-frozen soldier. "Not a chance. I haven't had this much fun in a long time. We're going another round. Maybe 2. There goes that idea." The world-famous man wasn't letting Naruto lament for long. He forced the younger male to block his fist as it pierced the snow flurries falling on them. A thud resonated from the dull impact the starting gun for the second round between hidden shinobi and temporarily retired superhero. Because of a handy distraction courtesy of Captain America, Naruto failed to realize there was another pair of eyes watching him. This person's stealth was on a whole different level, making it child's play for them to hide from Naruto while he was busy engaged with Captain America. The whiskered one has more than potential. This one possesses actual skill if he can go hand-to-hand with Steve Rogers. Yes, the mistress will be pleased to hear this. "I am glad you could make our meeting on such short notice, Mr. Uzumaki. Please, take a seat. I would like to get to our talks as soon as possible." A simple gesture on Elektra's part sent the Hand Clan member out of the room, leaving Naruto and Elektra alone to talk business. When a pair of ninjas show up unannounced on your fire escape, you learn the importance of punctuality. That, or you end up with a throwing star stuck in you. "Thank you for the seat, by the way." There was a telling glint in Naruto's eyes, showing he wasn't genuinely worried about his health. Naruto brushed off the man's exit in favor of the apparent leader, Elektra. Elektra crossed her legs at the ankles as she put the blonde's worries to rest. Her voice the epitome of diplomatic. "You were never in any danger. You're far too valuable to harm over something so mundane. My people understand this as well as I do, Mr. Uzumaki." She believed a little flattery couldn't hurt, but not too much. She didn't want to accidentally push away by coming on strong. To the unaware, Naruto's sweeping gaze appeared innocent. However, in reality, Naruto utilized this moment to scope out the room for potential escape routes if things went sideways. He understood that trusting a ninja was a recipe for a sword in the back. But Naruto would entertain the idea for now. This required shifting gears back to present company and concluded with him giving Electra a piercing stare. Naruto held the look until a smirk shattered it seconds later. She won points with him by remaining firm under the pressure of his intent. Normally, I'd tell you to buzz off in less than flattering words. You know, shove it up your ass and all that. However, your hook intrigues me. So let me ask you, what makes you think I have any value to you? What could he say? The possibility of intermingling with this universe's brand of shinobi wasn't something Naruto could pass on. It's simple. I want your skills and I can reward you handsomely if you help me with this problem of mine. Electra refused to say she'd give Naruto anything his heart desired. Those clichés were for second-rate mob bosses and honestly beneath her. Her choice of words left a window open for Naruto, who couldn't let a golden opportunity pass him by. He didn't care if it wasn't appropriate for a business meeting. You know, it almost sounds like you were offering a young man a rather stimulating experience. I'm flattered, but why me specifically? Because there aren't many men who can match blows with Captain America walking around. If there were, they'd be sitting across from me like you are, Mr. Uzumaki. Of all her options, Electra approached this pivotal moment with the naked truth. In doing so, she surprised and impressed Naruto. The blonde looked into Electra's dark eyes for a handful of moments where he said nothing, until finally, "You're ninja friends, I assume. And please, call me Naruto." Electra nodded and brushed her ponytail over her right shoulder. "Only if you call me Electra, but you're right, so what do you think? Do you want the job?" Years of high-stakes negotiation helped Electra keep a hope from bleeding into her silky voice. "I'm willing to hear more about this opportunity, but I won't agree to anything until I hear more. That's the best I can do." Uzumaki Naruto could only exist as a civilian for so long before his blood called him to action. This was an undeniable fact. However, Electra needed to give him more legitimate details if she wanted his assistance. The lady assassin nodded, seemingly showing approval of Naruto's thought process. Naruto not agreeing with her because of a smile went far with the woman. "You're smart. I like that. Okay, I'll give you more. But how do you feel about continuing this talk of ours elsewhere?" Naruto got this feeling in his gut that both worried and excited him at the same time. Such as. He trailed off, hoping to coax something out of his hostess. Electra's smile revealed itself before her words. The Mediterranean woman couldn't keep the excitement out. She was a thrill-seeker at heart, always had been. "I was thinking a fast car going even faster down the streets of New York." The shinobi transplant stared at his conversational counterpart until he knew she was serious. And as it were, she was plenty serious. "This is the strangest meeting of my life. Screw it, I'm down." Naruto's way of describing the look Electra gave him was giddy. She reminded him of the commercials portraying a kid waking on Christmas morning. "Fantastic. Follow me, and let's see if you can keep up." A quick trip through the complex not only brought them where they needed to go, it also revealed to Naruto how much respect Electra had among her people. None of the numerous guards looked at her for long before diverting their eyes. Either they respected her greatly or feared her displeasure. Probably both. "Here she is, Naruto. The SSC Tuatara. Sleek and red fits her well, wouldn't you agree?" The vehicle in front of the pair was the definition of a high-end sports car with its dynamic shape and low design. It screamed fast. It also screamed stupidly expensive. The latter descriptor drove Naruto to remark on Electra's choice of vehicle. "You don't strike me as the type to have something so gaudy sitting around. It's surprising." She responded with a smile that was equal parts sly and satisfied. "It's not my taste, but I borrowed this beauty from a man going through his midlife crisis. He had too many cars for one person. I say he was practically asking me to take it." Electra would put the car to better use than some middle-aged fart. She knew in her heart that she and this car were a match made in heaven. If she couldn't hear the wind roaring in her ears, the car wasn't fast enough for Electra Nachios. Instead of chastising such blatant lawbreaking, Naruto chuckled the admission off. Who really cared if the filthy rich lost one of their toys? It was like a daimyo or someone of that ilk being robbed. They were still rich at the end of the day. Naruto wasn't going to cry for him, not by a long shot. Having moved to the driver's side, Electra stood with her hands settled on her hips. There was a smirk dancing on her lips as she looked at Naruto. "You don't think me some petty thief, do you?" The lightly made accusation came from a place of amusement. "Are you a thief, Electra?" Naruto fired off, unafraid to push back. Like the dark-haired woman, Naruto relished some tasteful back-and-forth banter. "Only when it suits me." Both shared a laugh at her response, ending with them grinning at each other. "Now stop dallying and get in the car." Naruto followed Electra's example and found himself in the passenger seat of a speeding car. The sheer force of the automobile's initial acceleration sent Naruto into his seat, but he stabilized himself a moment later. Instead of showing anxiety or trepidation, Naruto was laughing and having a blast as they blazed around corners faster than they had any right going. Woo! As someone who reached speeds even higher than this, Naruto was having a fantastic time. It didn't matter if some of the sharper turns left them with 2 tires on the road instead of 4. Naruto wished they could have gone faster. What an interesting man. When Electra put the gas pedal to the floor, she expected screams of fear, not excitement. Then she thought that maybe Naruto was doing this to impress her. However, she quickly realized that Naruto didn't look at her once. Shaking her head, Electra focused on following his example and enjoying the experience. This equated to going faster and traveling down narrower roads. Electra didn't plan on going this far with her recklessness, but Naruto's hollering was contagious. His enthusiasm encouraged her to push her limits. It amounted to a 30-minute joyride through New York, which ended with the pair parked in a forest preserve. Leaving the engine running, Electra hopped out of the car. She signaled Naruto over and started walking into the woods. "I haven't gone that fast in a long time," his offhanded comment drew a curious look from Electra, but she didn't pursue the information. Electra instead focused on why she and Naruto were together in the first place. Despite her interest in the growing mystery around Naruto, her mission came first. "You would like to hear more about my offer, correct?" "That would be preferable. My goal is to drive out an opposing group of ninjas based in New York. They're from the original sect coming from Japan and are utterly ruthless in their tactics and execution. Their number are some of the most traditional hardliners of the Hand clan. They're bad news." Electra was more than slightly surprised to see an indifferent look on Naruto's face. She expected something more. "You don't seem surprised. I've learned that where there's some crazy, more is always waiting around the corner. It makes sense there'd be more ninjas somewhere. And you plan on filling the void left behind when this other group is driven out?" A knowing tone from Naruto said this was more a statement than a question. Not that it shocked Naruto that Electra's motives were less than pure. Put somewhat on the defensive by Naruto's matter-of-fact responses, Electra moved to defend her actions. After all, Naruto didn't understand hand methods like she did. This group will do anything to fulfill the daimyo's ambitions, including murder and human trafficking. Putting a stop to them helps the people of New York, but it also removes one of their most lucrative operations in America. It is the lesser of two evils. Naruto snorted in amusement. While not worded the same, Naruto swore he heard the same rationale hundreds of times in his past life. As justifications went, it wasn't the most impressive pitch. "I heard somewhere that evil is evil. There is no such thing as lesser, greater, or middling. Perhaps I shouldn't choose an evil and wash my hands clean of this entirely. Naruto. But anyone that knows me knows I literally can't let deeds like that go unpunished. I'll help you this time, but you're still paying me handsomely." Speaking over Electra's attempts to explain herself, the whiskered blonde finally gave his consent. While they didn't fully agree, they were on the same page. "That would have to be enough for now. I'll take what I can get. Let's go back to base and go over the plan." Only now did Electra allow herself to breathe a sigh of relief. At least she secured someone capable of leading her people in her upcoming raid. That's all she could ask for. 4 nights later. A field of coarse dirt dotted with heaps of rusted scrap metal extended in front of Naruto and his associates. These piles of metal made a straightforward approach to their target at the center impossible. The central high-rise looked derelict yet harmless. That made it the perfect base for an organization like the Hand clan. And a distinct lack of sustainable cover made the apartment structure easily defendable should it come to that. Naruto's tactical breakdown of his target ended with the activation of the communicator in his ear. The static faded into Electra's familiar accent. "Naruto, we are beginning our attack on target site Apollo. Launch your assault when you are ready." "Understood." The boss lady thought a coordinated attack was the move. Sure, doing it this way divided their already limited forces. However, a two-front assault should prevent enemy reinforcements from responding to either location. Naruto's job was to make the divide and conquer strategy work. Naruto turned off his communicator and looked at the medley of men and women awaiting his word. 15 of you will charge the front entrance. You'll fight hard enough to draw the enemy out but do not advance. You're the decoys. If you're overwhelmed, retreat. This isn't a suicide mission. Meanwhile, smaller groups will infiltrate from the east and south. Your groups will only have 5 people, so engage wisely. Go. Blue eyes hardened in preparation as Electra's underlings descended on the area, spreading out as ordered. "That leaves the upper floors to me. It's time I show these people what a real shinobi looks like." A cloud of smoke materialized from nowhere. When it vanished, Naruto held a porcelain mask and Tonto in hand. Watch over me, Yugao-sensei. It's time I make you proud. When Naruto learned this world's heroes used masks and secret identities, he laughed his ass off. Where Naruto came from, if you weren't strong enough to face threats, you died. Hiding behind a persona wouldn't change that. The closest thing shinobi had to a secret identity were the various Black Op programs. But an Anbu mask wasn't there to conceal someone. The animal face existed to eliminate the concept of individuality. Solo acts didn't last long in Anbu. The team came first. Always. Seeing how this was his first slice of real action in a new world, Naruto used this operation as a way to honor the woman who spearheaded his growth as a shinobi. That meant donning his fox-styled mask once more. Using chakra as fuel, Naruto bounded across the open field and up the western side of the apartment in less than 20 seconds. Since the frontal assault drew all the attention, Naruto vaulted onto the roof with 4 bow-shooting sentries facing away from him. The first body was still in the process of dropping when Naruto finished dispatching all 4 guards. His precise sword strike tore through the foursome in a single slash. Leaving the bodies behind for the time being, Naruto gravitated toward the building's skylight. That was his entry point. He peeked down on a second group of combatants sitting around a table. They appeared to be enjoying a meal. Correction. They were sharing their last meal. Naruto pulled out a kunai and tossed it at the glass. He rolled through his final hand sign as the projectile blade smashed the glass. Kunai Kage Bunshin. A single kunai became 20 daggers that made Naruto's targets into mincemeat with little fanfare. The Uzumaki fell onto the table below, jarring the blood-stained broken glass. As he entered the room, so did another wave of enemies that funneled into the room after hearing the commotion. Shrugging, Naruto propelled himself forward. His charge ended with his bloodied Tonto puncturing the heart of another foe. His ears filled with the damp sound of his Tonto coming free as he backflipped off the dead man's chest. The acrobatic escape rendered the shuriken aimed at Naruto's back useless. While Naruto was flipping through the air, he brought his sword down and cut a hand member from her collar to her stomach. He landed on his feet, but the woman collapsed onto her bleeding front with a groan. Now there were only 2 men left. Based on their posture alone, Naruto had them feeling anxious. Mustering their courage, they attacked the retired Anbu together. It was the correct move, but unfortunately for them, Naruto was faster and more skilled. What Naruto couldn't weave away from, he parried effortlessly. Their sword dance continued this way until the hand pair inevitably overextended in their desperation. Naruto exploited the misstep and shepherded the 2 men to an inglorious death at the end of his blade, quick and clean. Flicking the crimson blood off his short sword, Naruto advanced into the hallway, where the sound of battle raged on. The distraction was working as intended. Going through the remaining rooms on the floor one by one, Naruto went some 10 rooms before finding anything of interest. His search led him to an office-like room that had papers all over. There wasn't anything noteworthy until he encountered a slip of paper with 3 broken sentences scribbled. The penmanship was rather poor. Muspelheim Beasts. Vibranium Enhancements, Sin City. I'll deal with this later. I have more pressing matters to attend to. Naruto stowed the documents in one of his many storage seals and continued with the job. He got 2 steps out when an ear-rattling blast tore through the hallway. The hand grunt responsible for the grenade's explosion waved away the smoke expecting a disfigured body. When we uncovered burnt bark, he was stumped. Mokuzai? Naruto appeared in the man's shadow, his mask stained with the blood of his previous victims. You're Japanese as shit. His surly comment made the fake ninja jump in surprise. His opponent rotated around, but Naruto's fearsome appearance froze the man. That momentary lapse in focus is all Naruto needed to hack the man down. This is like fighting Genin and Shunin. How disappointing. Kage Bunshin. Looking at his 2 clones, Naruto nodded at the mess behind the doppelgangers. Clean this up. Leave nothing for the authorities if our deal with Electra goes wrong. Hi. Naruto tuned out the sounds of his clone cleanup without much trouble. Back to the mission. If he remembered the schematics of the building right, he had 1 more floor to clear before he linked up with Electra's people. The woman's spies dubbed it the armory. I think I'll bust out some ninjutsu. Might as well flex the reserves a little while I have the chance. Naruto almost felt bad for the unfortunate souls waiting below. The shinobi heard his prey before he saw them. They were clearly in a panic and struggling to regroup. While their struggles continued, Naruto set himself at the armory's entrance. Someone with some spatial awareness turned and saw the blonde. The man in red called for an attack but was too late to thwart Naruto. Sweden. Hikasaki no Torrento. Water release. Tearing torrent. Naruto rotated his head from right to left as he spewed a twisting tunnel of pressure-packed water from his mouth. The violence surged through the men and women against the far wall and crushed them. Most didn't survive, but the few who weathered his attack and climbed out of the scattered weapon racks surprised Naruto by biting down on cyanide tablets and killing themselves. He didn't have long to think about it because Naruto was joined by one of his temporary allies. The half-masked man kneeled behind Naruto with his head dipped respectfully. "Sir." "Report. We have reason to believe that Kirigi is in New York, sir." Short and to the point, Naruto appreciated the brief answer. The emphasis placed on the name wasn't lost on Naruto. This figure, whoever it was, must have been a big shot. Okay, and who is this Kirigi that makes him so important? Legends state Kirigi is the Han clan's eternal blade. He kills whoever the Jonin commands and is said to be hundreds of years old, sir. An immortal, huh? The fox mask hid how Naruto narrowed his eyes at this tidbit of information. This revelation bore looking into, for sure. Anything else? We tried capturing prisoners for interrogation, but they killed themselves, sir. We also have 3 injured and none dead. Naruto opened his mouth to reply but stopped when the memories of his clones hit him. Damn, he worked fast. Good. See to the injured and secure the building. I'll take this news to Electra myself. Yes, sir. Target site Apollo. Things weren't going nearly as smoothly for Electra and company at the other mission site, designation Apollo. They encountered something none of them were prepared for, and it cost them dearly in the form of manpower. Their ill-fated push ended with a staggering amount of casualties, many of whom died before they could defend themselves from the hail of gunfire. How did this happen? You are the one everyone around here is scared of crossing. What a fucking joke. Part of the reason things ended so poorly was laughing at her. His skin-tight black and white suit looked comical, but the man wearing it was deadly in his own right. This was the man called Bullseye. I'm not dead yet, fool. For someone as prideful as Electra, it could be debated which was worse. The bullet wound in her shoulder or hearing this man gloat at her expense. Right now, Electra leaned toward the latter, but the blood-leaking hole made a strong argument for first place. Good. I need you alive if you're going to suffer. It's your pain. It will make me feel alive, so make sure you scream nice and loud for me. The sadistic criminal's eyes dilated, and his grin contorted wildly on his lips. Together they sold how much Bullseye savored inducing bodily harm. For an unrepentant sadist, there weren't many better occupations than freelance assassination. The only way tonight could go better for Bullseye was if Daredevil was in Elektra's place, the red bastard. Do not get ahead of yourself. It will be the end of you. I will be the end of you. Something as simple as tightening her hand around her favorite weapon sent a jolt of pain through Electra. She didn't let her opponent see the weakness, but it didn't bode well for her prospects in a drawn-out fight. Best to end it quickly. You might be more convincing if you weren't bleeding around the hole in your shoulder, ninja bitch. Bullseye barked back with a scoff that felt more like a vitriolic spat. He still harbored a grudge that someone like her was getting all the hype when he was right there. When it came to hitmen, Bullseye knew he was the best. Being the best meant a better paycheck and the opportunity to cause more pain. No one wanted some second-best dumbass. That wasn't how the business world operated. He intended on turning Electra into his resume. When he killed Electra, anyone with a brain would pay hand over fist for his services. You got lucky, nothing more. What else could she call it but bad luck? Electra was aware of the suited man's playbook and realized she was at a disadvantage, and that was before she lost 90% of her forces. The burning sensation going through her arm wasn't helping any either. Bullseye bristled at the insinuation thrown his way. That was all skill. Here, I'll give you an encore. Reaching down into one of the pouches hanging off his white belt, Bullseye grabbed and flicked a bullet at Electra. She started moving as soon as Bullseye sent the projectile her way. However, one of her wards had a moment of clairvoyance and moved first. He shoved Electra out of the bullet's path, taking the shell into and through the throat. The swaying man quickly fell like a puppet with its strings severed. Thump. Malaka. A building swell of frustration and anger became a swear word from her Greek heritage. She would have turned her spite on Bullseye if not for the lone retainer at her side helping to keep her focused. Mistress, we must regroup and return later. The chaotic haze of combat dispersed, and with new clarity, Electra saw the amount of death around her. Every person but one was dead. It was a sobering and painful thought to internalize. Fuck. Cover the retreat. Her order was carried out without question. The female Han clan slammed a smoke bomb onto the ground. Upon bursting, the room was stuffed with thick, purple-colored smoke. Bullseye sent a bladed playing card into the shapeless mass. He clicked his teeth in annoyance when he heard the thump of wood instead of flesh being sliced. They got away. They got away. The boss won't be happy about this, Bullseye. The painfully obvious information came from one of the mercs hired to act as his support. He also unknowingly fanned the ire of the enhanced villain. Don't worry, I've got it covered. With a simple flick of his wrist, Bullseye sliced the mercenary's throat. The man in a tactical vest was already dead when his weapon hit the floor, but that didn't stop Bullseye from talking to the corpse. I'll bring him the incompetent shit who let our target get away. That should satisfy him until I get my hands on that ninja bitch. Elektra's base. As soon as Naruto stepped into the base, one of the many servants Elektra employed came up to him. The man seemed unbothered by the dried blood smeared across his mask, which impressed Naruto slightly. Sir, the mistress requested I bring you to her as soon as you arrive. Please, follow me. Naruto followed the man without a fuss. The hand ninja led him to the room where Elektra was being tended to by the organization's version of a healer. Naruto's Anbu training enabled him see the treatment wasn't going to work. It's why Naruto took command. Everyone out, now. Lacing one's voice with chakra was an old shinobi trick that created an extra aura of authority. Naruto watched as the men and the women in the room stood straighter before bolting from the room, not a one questioning if he even had the clearance to order them around. Now it was just Naruto and Elektra. The dark-haired assassin tried commenting on how Naruto assumed control of the room but was cut off by the blonde. Tell me what happened. Anyone with eyes could see what happened from a glance, but getting a first-hand account never hurt. Enhanced human, goes by the name of Bullseye, he can turn anything into a projectile. The asshole literally pitched a bullet at me. It's still somewhere in my shoulder. Elektra found it difficult to not squirm in place when Naruto examined the hole in her shoulder. The easiest way to distract herself was the strange and bloodied mask on Naruto's face. I like the mask. The blood is a nice touch, quite intimidating. Naruto left the small talk to his patient. He had more important things to concern himself with, like holding the size handle in front of Elektra's mouth. Bite down on this. This is going to burn. Her confusion didn't stop Elektra from doing what Naruto asked. Pulling his mask off to the side let the woman see how focused the blonde was on his task. That's when, from out of nowhere, Naruto's hand lit up with a soft glow. Her chance at asking what the hell that was stopped when Naruto pressed his hand against the bullet hole. Naruto was no liar. The burning he promised was immediate, and so was the excruciating pain. Her teeth clenched harshly against the worn handle of her weapon. Every muscle in her body contracted until it was physically painful. FWAH. It took everything Elektra had to keep the agony-induced tears at bay. Breathe through your nose. I have to burn out the lead impurities, or you'll suffer for it. Bedside manner wasn't taught in Anbu. If Black Ops administered medical treatments, it was about speed and efficiency, not kindness. The blonde grabbed the forceps left on the table, but before Naruto went forward, he informed the writhing woman what he planned on doing. I'm going to extract the bullet. Try and keep still. The more you squirm, the worse things will get. On-the-job training helped Naruto operate through the blood that continued getting in his way. His healing chakra stemmed the flow from the wound, but every tiny twist of the gripping tool caused another surge of blood to emerge. When he finally got a good hold of the shell, Naruto tugged the deformed bullet out. Placing the crimson-stained tool on the table, Naruto methodically applied the bandaging. He finished the cross-tiered layers with a firm tug that forced a grunt from Elektra. And it's out. Taking the makeshift mouthpiece out, Naruto followed up with, "How do you feel?" Elektra managed to answer his question, but her words, like her body, were wavering. It was a strange sensation to behold. Almost like floating in the air and being submerged simultaneously. Good. No pain. But I feel tired all of a sudden. Naruto anticipated as much. What he said next was more of a programmed response than a conscious choice on his part. It just kind of came out instinctually. Hence why he said it when he knew Elektra wouldn't understand. That's an expected side effect of coming into contact with my chakra. What? I'll explain more when you wake up. Naruto laughed off the pitiful attempt at a glare he got for his evasiveness. He had just finished wiping his hands when he saw Elektra teeter forward. Whoa there. Naruto slid to a stop in front of Elektra. He got there just in time to catch her shoulders and stop her forward momentum. That one is on me. I shoulda laid you down first. His patient didn't comment on his oversight, clearly. So it was up to Naruto to take her and put her somewhere she could rest. He singled out the couch in the room as this place and carried the sleeping woman toward it. Careful to avoid her banged-up shoulder, Naruto set Elektra down gently. That's when Naruto finally had a moment to himself. He finally had a second to step back and take a deep breath. He never had nights like this as a harmless high school student. Man, what a night. The training basement is a place Elektra knew well. It was her haven when she needed to work off the stress of her position. So when her people told her Naruto was down here, she expected him to be doing the same. But what she got was a man in a meditative position. Have you been down here all night? Naruto cracked open a single blue eye upon being addressed. He stared down his employer for a moment before dropping a question of his own. Depends. What time is it now? A lack of clock and windows made it virtually impossible to tell time down here. Rubbing mindlessly at her injured wing, the clan boss in the building supplied Naruto with the information he was looking for. It's 7 in the morning. Seeing Electra trying to manipulate her body had Naruto doing the same, and when he did try stretching, the stiffness stuck in him left the blonde grimacing. Well, judging by the pain in my back, I'd say that I was. Huh, that's a 7-hour meditation. That's a new record. This newly crowned achievement certainly helped dull the discomfort. The young sage was still thinking about his mediation milestone when Electra moved. She silently took a seat behind Naruto, using her back to support Naruto's. The brace against his spine left Naruto sighing instantly. Oh, that's the spot. I didn't know how much I needed this, thanks. Electra started chuckling at how different this Naruto was from the man who arrived last night with blood smeared across an emotionless mask. I owe you as much, if not more. You can lead a tactical strike with minimal losses, kill when needed, and heal wounds on command. What exactly are you, Naruto Uzumaki? Uzumaki Naruto. His correction of the Western pronunciation was as instinctual as breathing at this point for Naruto. He thought about how to best answer her question, then chose not to answer. Good question. I'd say that I'm one hell of a mercenary. But are you a mutant, or are you enhanced? Was that some form of magic? She fired off the options in her mind rapid fire. This was a question burning in her psyche, and the more she got to know Naruto, the more pressing her interest. How do I best describe it? It's a loose mixture of enhanced and magic, but at the same time, it's something completely natural to my body. Through training, I unlocked these powers. It's called chakra. That's what you saw around my hand. Naruto was glad he took the time to read up on the fundamentals of chakra. He had a feeling this wouldn't be the last time he explained how he did things to someone. Human bodies produce several usually inaccessible energies. However, I learned how to harness them. The end result is chakra, and that's what you saw around my hand. It was a good thing he read up on the basics and fundamentals of chakra because he had a feeling this explanation would come up more than once during his time here. Fascinating. From what I know about the field, your circumstances are unlike anything I've encountered before. Stuff of this nature always interested Electra, and with the Hand Clan's resources, she was able to pursue these otherworldly interests. It's like I said. I'm one hell of a mercenary, Electra. Naruto delivered his stance through a soft chuckle that ended with him leaning into Electra's back. He never intended on going any further into his past than that. The results speak for themselves. You are worth every penny, and your payment is waiting upstairs for you. My people tell me you have something to share with me. Electra trailed off curiously, not knowing much about what the blonde knew. That's right. Naruto went on to describe everything that happened in the field. He let no detail go unmentioned, but when he brought up the name Kirigi, Naruto felt a shift in Electra's demeanor. Kirigi. The infamous hitman's name alone was enough to raise the goosebumps on her skin and straighten the little hairs on the back of her neck. If there is one person Electra wanted to avoid, it's the timeless wraith of the Hand Clan. His legends were numerous and brutal. He's bad news, or so I've been told. Naruto didn't know enough about the guy to be intimidated, unlike the people around him. Quite the opposite, actually. Naruto was looking forward to crossing paths with another so-dubbed immortal. That's an understatement. Kirigi and Bullseye on the field at the same time will make things more difficult than I imagined. There was a subtle shift in her tone. It was slight enough that not everyone would hear it, but Naruto picked up on the blow to her confidence. Naruto received the opinion with a pensive hum. Instead of lingering, he turned his focus to the other name. Bullseye might be a more known quantity, but Naruto knew as much about Bullseye as he did Kirigi. This Bullseye guy, he gave you trouble. You mentioned it briefly, but what happened at Apollo? They caught us in an ambush. We cleared the initial resistance without much trouble. Yes, my forces were winded, but they were capable of moving forward. I didn't count on running into a platoon of guns for hire and their assault rifles. Electra was more than a little bitter over how things ended. Assault rifles. Naruto still wasn't sure how he felt about those things. Could you hypothetically take Bullseye if it came down to that? The woman's emotions reached Naruto, and when he asked Electra if she could win, Naruto picked up an unyielding determination. That's all the blonde needed to see. Absolutely. Sometimes one word is enough. Naruto nodded, then dropped a casual bomb that made Electra blink in surprise. Good, because I want to take a crack at this ninja boogeyman. I hear he's supposedly immortal. In his head, the whiskered sage started cackling. The need to make mischief in his Uzumaki blood was rearing its head. Despite being unable to see her face, Naruto was certain Electra had a fantastic look on her face. He could practically taste the dumbfounded stupor. Wait. The contract was only for one night. Are you? Naruto jumped to his feet without warning, leaving Electra to nearly fall onto her back. It was her scramble to catch herself that stopped Electra mid-sentence. Meh, details, details. When a friend needs a hand, I tend to lend one of mine. It's sort of my thing. And since I've had your blood on my hands, I'd say we are friends. So what do you say? Now in front of Electra, Naruto's smile turned to a grin. He silently extended his hand, beckoning the dark-haired Fatale to take his hand in the help. Provoked by the sincerity of Naruto's selfless gesture, Electra tossed her head back and laughed. His logic was simple, and she loved it. You must be the strangest man I've ever met, and I think I'm starting to like it. Already pulled up, Naruto and Electra were still linked by the hand, flashing each other an equally expressive smirk. Naruto went to say something when the boom of a powerful explosion hit their ears. Electra balanced herself against the shaking foundation. Meanwhile, Naruto cursed under his breath in Japanese as he covered his ringing ears. He funneled chakra into his ears, but the damage was already done. What was that? Naruto was thankful that Electra maintained enough composure to not scream her question despite the circumstances. His ears already hurt enough without unneeded additions. Shaking off the ringing in his skull, Naruto wanted answers too. Let's find out. He put a hand on Electra's shoulder, and as simple as that, the pair vanished and reappeared on the main floor. Wind-styled Shunshin for the win. She needed a moment for her brain to comprehend what Naruto did. But when it clicked, Electra whipped her gaze to Naruto. Before she could ask the burning question, one of her people ran up to her and Naruto. Mistress, the western wall has been blown out by an explosion. Naruto's ears twitched at an all-too-familiar whizzing sound. That's when a sleek kunai came flying in through the black smoke. Naruto snatched the ninja weapon out of the air, effortlessly saving the hand minion. He saw the note tied around the handle. What do we have here? Naruto read the note's contents with a hum and grinned viciously. Hell yes. They want an old-fashioned showdown. Electra took the note from Naruto and read the message herself. Her response to the call-out was more measured but just as accepting as Naruto's. If it's a fight they want, then that's what they'll get. Gather everyone capable of raising a weapon. It's time we finish this fight for good. While the men and women loyal to Electra ran about to gather what they needed for the upcoming battle, Naruto stood in place. He had a grin stretched across his face and a pair of glowing eyes that went amiss in the chaos. The bell has tolled for you, Kirigi. Death is coming. The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.